Hello everyone, and welcome to Linux Forensics here at Pentester Academy. In this video, we're going to look at login attempts. So we're going to look at two files in particular, and these two files are in the log directory, and one of them will give you everyone's login information. In other words, when did this user log in last? The other one will give you failed login attempts. So if you go to any Linux system, you can go to a terminal and you can type last and it will give you a list of when people have been on the system. And there are some additional parameters that you can give to last, such as -F for a full listing. You can give it a command like I for IP addresses, and you can give it AI in order to append that to the end for remote logins. And you can give it the wide format, and you can give it some extra things, such as when someone changed the run level. If you do that, you see that you get a little bit more information. And of course, that's what we're going to do on our image that we've mounted. So let's go ahead and go back to our script. So my script starts out just like most scripts that I would have, with shebang, bin bash, I have a usage statement that says this will take your mount point for your subject media, optionally a database name, and it will give you a log of successful and unsuccessful logins. And you might optionally store this in a database. So if you don't give me enough parameters, I call usage, and here I will create a file, a CSV file again, although it's really semicolon separated, and I'm going to put it in my temp directory. I'm also going to put it out to the screen. So I start out with an echo of my header. Who or what is the first field. The terminal or an event, if it's not a who, if it was a what in the first column, a start time and date, a stop timestamp, elapsed time, and an IP address. And all of that is going to go to the screen and also to this temp file. Here's my last command, -AI. Please append information to the end, and I would like the IP address. Here is my full listing, WX. It's giving me everything, and here is a file. So last will optionally take a file instead of the standard one. So this allows you to run last on the image. $1 was the path to the root directory, and it's looking at var log wtemp. It pipes that to my awk command. So what does this awk command do? This awk command uses substring in order to create a CSV file from our fixed length file. So if you look at the results from last, everything appears in a fixed column, and this is just a set of substring commands that are put to awk in order to bust that up into fields. I then pipe that to another sed command, and this sed command is used to get rid of spaces before a semicolon. So if I have 0 or more spaces before a semicolon, I replace that with just a semicolon globally, That means if it happens more than once on a line, please do it again. And I also get rid of any trailing spaces before the new line using something very similar. If there are spaces before the new line, substitute just a new line, please. I then pipe that to my T command. Here again, because I'm appending, I use a T-A. If I didn't use the -A, I would lose the header that I created up here. I send that to login CSV, and then I do the exact same thing, but this time for login fails. Now, because it's login fails, I use the last B command, and it's on a slightly different file. It's under btemp. Everything else is the same. As I've done before, I say if you gave me more than one parameter, then first of all, change ownership of these two files in order to make MySQL happy. I use my cat less than EOF construct to pipe everything from this line to the EOF into MySQL. So what are those things? Well, I first create a logins table with the who or what field followed by the terminal if it's a who or event if it's a what, a start date, a start time, elapsed time. I just store this as a string because you're not really going to necessarily search on that. And it's fairly complicated to convert that one because of how it's displayed. And then an IP address. And I create a primary key that's a big int called recno that is auto-incremented. And here I load it into my file. So loading it into my file is a little bit complicated, but it's not too bad really. You know, we've done similar things before. So I call load data in file, temp logins.csv into table logins. Fields are terminated by semicolons. All this stuff is standard. I say ignore one rows because I have a header. Here I say who or what, etc. And the only thing that causes me grief are the date times in my table. How do I deal with that? I set the start date time to string to date. Now, string to date has a misleading name because this will actually return a date time and not just a date. That is, if I have in fact given it time information as well as a date, it will create a date time. So I give it the day of the week, the month, the abbreviation of it, the day in the month, hours in military time, minutes, seconds, and then a 4-digit date. That is the format that this is displayed. And I do the exact same thing for stop, and that should import my information. Here I have create table login fails. That is the exact same kind of a table. It's just for failed logins, and the format is the same here. So this is essentially repeated. Here's the end of my SQL statement, and here is the end of my if. So I'm going to run getlogins.sh on media part 0, and I'm going to connect to database case 2015-39. I'll let this run. It does its thing, and then it asks me for my database password. I give it to it. Boom, it's done. If I go to my database, do a show tables, I will see a couple of new tables. I now have login fails and logins. So if I do a quick select from login fails, I will see that in fact I recorded my login failure on March 9th for the user LightDM. Well, that's all for this video. As always, if you're enjoying these videos here at Pentester Academy, please tell a friend. We'll see you soon.